It's just always been heterosexual relationships. And now that people are saying, well, can we have a gay kiss between cartoon characters? Everyone's like, no, that's grooming. Why do we have to involve sex in this? Why do kids need to see any of that? Come on, leave it alone. And that's why it's so gross what Joe Rogan is doing, because he is a megaphone. He has the largest podcast in the world, 11 million people. He is unaccountable in his discussion. And if he's going to join, the groups of people who are now trying to associate these two things together, it's dangerous. It's dangerous and it's wrong. This one is a bit of a weird one. I'm going to put a content warning. I'll verbally state a content warning. There is a T slur in this story. So a source that I always turn to, the Daily Caller, reputable as they get, the Daily Caller says, quote, "There should be no groomers. Joe Rogan tears into educators attempting to indoctrinate kids about homosexuality? My God." Podcast host Joe Rogan criticized groomer educators for their alleged attempts to indoctrinate their students on homosexuality during Wednesday's episode of the Joe Rogan Experience. Maybe I should just read every Daily Caller article like this until I'm not even speaking English. Rogan criticized the crazy people who wanted to teach those were groomers simply because it's how people on the left put it under their orientation, gender identity. Now let's hear it in his own words.
How do you feel about education? I think it's critical. It's very important. Yeah. How do you feel about indoctrination by people that are educators? I don't like that at all. They're just two very different things. Right. And if you want to tell me that they're the same thing, I say fuck you. Right. Because they're not. Because there's a lot of fucking crazy people that wind up being teachers. Someone said to me that, or read this, not all, that term groomer, a lot of people don't like that term online. They're very upset. Yeah. But they're real. Right. There are groomers. You don't like it? Do you not like it because you don't want children to be groomed? Or do you not like it because it's a pejorative that's used against?
I don't like it because none of you have learned what the meaning is, and all of the right-wingers keep using it to mean LGBTQIA+. That's what I don't like. Grooming, again, is someone who's trying to coerce a child into having a sexual relationship with them, either through the use of the internet or something else. That is what a groomer is. If you have a teacher who's like, hey, I want to tell my kids that some families have two mummies and two daddies, that's not grooming in any way, shape, or form. And equating the two is something that people have been doing for a long time. We're going to get into the history of that as well.
Against the left, which is, I think, more likely. Yeah. But here's what's more important. Not have people groom your fucking kids. That's what's more important than you getting uncomfortable with this word.
I agree. No one wants people grooming their kids. In fact, most people don't want people marrying their kids, which is why maybe we should end child marriage, one that disproportionately has old men marrying young girls and they're not allowed to divorce them until they reach a certain age. That seems incredibly super fucked up and a practice we should end right away. This is not something that is happening disproportionately by members of the gay community.
Because it's used by people on the right. Like I saw someone as an argument, someone who I think is an intelligent person, say that there should be a block against using the word groomer.
Unbelievable.
No, there shouldn't be a block against using the word groomer. There should be, I suppose, a modicum of research being done on your behalf. You, the largest podcaster in the world, you who is speaking now to 11 million people, to learn what this word means and learn the dangers of trying to associate it with gay people.
There should be no groomers. How about that? And this is what they wrote. They said, not all teachers are groomers, but a lot of groomers are teachers.
There you go.
And that's real. Yeah. That's a real fucking problem. I mean, constant.
Sure, and no one here is trying to say that it's a bad thing if you call out teachers who are groomers, that they should be called out. They should be actually investigated. It's a crime to do that. That's again different than things like the libs of TikTok, which Joe Rogan has promoted multiple times, trying to associate homosexuality with grooming or pedophilia.
Teachers are getting arrested for exposing themselves to children, for masturbating in front of children.
Arrest them.
For sending
That's
nude
fucked up.
Pictures in front of children.
That's fucked up.
Every
Arrest
couple
them.
days there's a new one that pops up in the news.
Arrest all of them.
And how many of those people haven't been caught yet? And how many of those people are out there? And how many of those people are doing it under the guise of I'm an LGBTQ?
Boom. Right there. Indefensible. Garbage. Every single person who has always been supporting Joe Rogan, oh, he's not that bad, he's a libertarian, oh, I'm going to go on a show anyway and talk about it. Fuck you. Fuck all of you. Right there. That is is indefensible. Right there, he is doing the thing where he's directly equating pedophilia and grooming with homosexuality, with LGBTQ+. Like, that is fucked up. That is fucked up, especially because the majority of the people who are committing those acts are not gay. They are overwhelmingly straight, cis, hetero men. Like, it's fucked up to even have to entertain this. It's just old-timey bigotry being repackaged for the next generation.
Educator, and
I'm keeping a tally of the amount of hate mail that you're going to be getting.
Well, good luck. I don't read it. There's people that are good people in all walks of life. Trans people, gay people, straight people, bisexual, whatever the fuck you are. There's good people in all walks of life. There's also
fine people on both
pieces
sides
of shit that will use those labels in order to get closer to groups of people and indoctrinate them. That's
so fucked up. Like, this is not true. He is propagating a myth to vilify gay people, as if people are pretending to be non-binary or pretending to be trans or pretending to be gay or even using those labels as a way of getting closer to kids. That is sincerely fucked up. That is a very fucked up thing to be saying on the largest podcast in the world and still have defenders on the left. Like, that fucking infuriates me.
For their own sexual pleasure, and that's real.
So you don't like kindergarten teachers talking about gender identity?
Well, I think it's important, and I think everyone should know it. I think it's like that's why that whole what they were calling the "Don't Say Gay" bill in Florida was so infuriating.
Yeah.
Like, when you're saying that you oppose any sort of legislation that prevents people from talking about sex and gender identity and
what he's saying isn't wrong. There are pedos who disguise themselves under LGBTQ. Like, you can find isolated cases, which the right loves to do and propagate. But if you're talking about this from a sincere place of you want to help kids and prevent pedophiles from attacking kids, then you are not going after the source. Like, if you look at the statistics, overwhelmingly, it happens to be cis, hetero men who are committing that. And often in the times of child abuse and pedophilia, it's family members, it's people who know the children, and it's people who have direct access to the children on a regular basis. If you are going to then use that to vilify people who are already marginalized in society, that's fucked up. That's very, very fucked up. And that is something that has been happening time and time again throughout history. The gay panic defense, trans panic defense, all these kind of things where people are constantly trying to associate pedophilia or abuse or trickery or any of those kind of things with being gay or trans or any of that kind of stuff. And it's fucked up.
Sexual orientation.
I'm going to get into the history of it.
People that are first.
Like, genuinely, if these people cared, they would go after the fucking Catholic Church. Let's be completely real, okay? They would be talking about the Catholic Church all day, every fucking day. We have an international organization that has engaged in pedophilia at a systemic level around the globe to the tune of thousands and thousands and thousands of victims. So if that is something you genuinely cared about, you would be calling for the abolishment of the Catholic Church globally if you actually were on a crusade against pedophiles.
Grade through third grade. You oppose anything that restricts that. I go, okay, who are you talking about? Because if this is open-ended, I've had some fucking idiots for teachers when I grew up. Can you imagine if those fucking idiots were trying to convince your child that they should be homosexual or that...
They're not doing that. Oh my God, you fucking bigot. They're not trying to convince kids to be gay. You can't do that. It doesn't work. There's no such thing. You cannot convince them to be gay. You are born gay. They're saying it's really fucked up that you can't talk to a kid about how there's a difference or that there's different kinds of families. How some families might have two mummies. Some families might have two daddies. Like, the fact that you now have to ban that because you're so scared about gay ideology, about convincing the kids that they're gay. No one is doing this. Because A, it's not a thing, and B, it doesn't work. And C, like... the whole thing is being reframed as if like these teachers are they're just trying so hard to convince kids to become gay, and we have to stop it. We have to legislate against it.
They should even be straight. Imagine if you have a kid that's gay.
Never mind convincing. How about just don't address, don't talk about this issue.
But that's my point. My point is, imagine if you have a gay child and you have a fucking teacher that's trying to indoctrinate your child into the world of heterosexuality.
These aren't things. These are straw people that you're inventing. And it goes back to that Disney thing. Like, you know how, and I made this morning, You know how they keep talking about how, why do we have to now introduce like gay sex into Disney films? They're saying they're going to have a whole bunch of like, I don't want to see Donald Duck, fucking Goofy and all this other weird shit that Ted Cruz is obsessed with. Like, this is what everyone grew up with. This is considered wholesome family entertainment. This is what I grew up with, right? And we don't even have, these are more modern Disney films, but you can go back all the way, Sleeping Beauty, Little Mermaid, every single one of them. This is just considered wholesome. It's like, oh. The first time Disney does that in a cartoon, this is what's considered grooming all of a sudden. It's like, why are they trying to indoctrinate kids? Like, why does this have to be in a cartoon? I don't get it. Why do kids have to see that? Why do they have to see them? And they're trying to convince them to become gay. They're not. The purpose of this is not to be like, yeah, and now when you see this, you should become the gay because you've seen the gay and it'll make you gay. It's that this just exists. There are men who love men. There are women who love women. So why can't that be represented in the same way it can for straight couples? No one is asking for them to now rip off their clothes and start having an orgy. And the same works for this.
And convince your child that they're going to burn in hell if that child is gay. Imagine how furious you would be.
Right.
Well, it works the other way too.
Right.
Right? It does. It works the other way.
It works the other way because there's a huge problem in the opposite direction. Yeah, same things are the same. Everyone's equal, especially when it happens to be a marginalized community. Yeah, so let's do that. I'm really against this reverse racism, bro. I can't even get my Starbucks coffee without someone calling me the C word or something like that. It's wild, bro. Everything's out of control now.
You should be really good to be able to talk, really good at what you do. If you want to talk to a fucking 7-year-old about gender identity and sex, and I've seen some of these people with lip rings and blue hair.
Oh my God, I saw them on Libs and TikTok. It was wild. She had blue hair, lip rings. Yeah, she was talking about how there's they thems. I was so taken aback. All I could see was groomer all over.
The term groomer, a lot of people don't like that term online. They're very upset. But they're real. Right. There are groomers. You don't like it? Do you not like it because you don't want children to be groomed? Or do you not like it because it's a pejorative that's used against the left? Which is, I think, more likely. Yeah. Well, here's what's more important. Not have people groom your kids. That's what's more important than you getting uncomfortable with this word because it's used by people on the right.
Joe Rogan doesn't understand why some people would have a problem with the usage of the word groomer, as the right wing in America incessantly uses that type of terminology to inaccurately describe people they disagree with. Mr. I want to protect free speech, Mr. I want to make sure that people have their voices heard, apparently loves to provide cover for right wingers who immediately go out of their way to defame people as groomers when there's no evidence indicating that they're groomers. But he's good friends with Alex Jones, who had no problem defaming the parents whose children were gunned down in Sandy Hook. So I guess I shouldn't be surprised. So as you guys can see, Joe Rogan went on a rampage because he had a right winger sitting across from him. So of course he had to get down on his knees and fillet him, as he usually does when he has right wingers on his podcast. And he just decided to completely misrepresent why it is that some people, myself included, have a problem with how that word is used. Not a problem with the word in and of itself, but how that word is used as a tool politically to intimidate, to shut down, to shut up any political opposition to right wingers in America. That is the problem. Let's hear more from his ridiculous, insane.
So yeah, we listened to that whole speech. I do want to say one thing. Cenk went on a weird rant in the middle of this about how he thinks that Joe Rogan had sex with a trans person, and that's why he's so obsessed with him.
Yeah, of course, if a teacher is actually a groomer, you can't see that that's a terrible phenomenon. Okay, then I agree with Anna.
I get the bit. I get what they were going for with it, and then Nuance Bro I guess found it and uploaded it to Twitter. And Nuance Bro, by the way, used a T-slur when he uploaded it. So content warning for T-slur, but I just want to show you how this whole pipeline began. Nuance Bro posts it, and then Glenn Greenwald ends up retweeting it with Cenk Uyghurs on a hunt for trans people that he sees fantasizing had sex with Joe Rogan and arguing these trans people to contact Cenk and tell him all about it. Okay, let me talk about this then. Vocabulary time. I want to introduce you to two Nazi terms. Judenverführer and Judenverderber. My apologies for pronunciation. Seducer and corrupter of youth. See groomer. These stereotypes depicting a figure who lured young people into an epidemic of Weimar queer and trans communities. Conflating queer and trans people with pedophilia helped Nazis rally support for their genocidal policies. In 1935, they changed existing German anti-sodomy laws to make it illegal to even act queer, whatever that is supposed to mean. It was a name protecting the Aryan children. After passing these new laws, Nazi revoked trans people's gender recognition cards. They began arresting sex workers and drag queens. By 1936, they were rounding them up en masse for labor camps. Again, this terror campaign was in the name of stopping supposed Judenverderber. Sorry again for my pronunciation. Germans in chat are about to roast me. We still have time to combat these anti-queer policies and beliefs, even if it seems unbearable. Knowing they would love to end us, we must continue to fight back. Groomer discourse has a deadly historical grounding. We must pay more attention to it while speaking out against it. You can do both simultaneously. It's surreal to watch Anna talk to Joe. What?
This person comes in with their husband, and they both have two different stories, and it's very difficult to figure out who's telling the truth. You know, who do you side for?
2014. Holy shit.
Who's telling the truth? It's very difficult to know. I mean, is it?
What was the point with Anna Kasparian? I don't even know about this show. Was that what she did before TYT? Is this like deep Anna lore?
What's up? I'm Anna Kasparian, and you might wonder, what the hell is the point? Well, think of it as a news show with a twist. It's like a game of truth or dare, except we focus solely on the truth and ask our panelists some pretty interesting questions.
Have you guys ever cheated or been cheated on? Have you had a near-death experience?
Have you spent money on something that you knew was wrong? What would you do in the last week of your life? Each week
It's so funny when you see these things, like, you know, where were they before they became like breakout stars? Like the Hassan one is really, really funny. Anyways, the thing I wanted to say about, you know, the Nuance Bro, you know, tweeting out that what is it? Jank is apparently looking for T-slurs in his audience to accuse if they've either had sex with Joe Rogan, and then Glenn Greenwald posting that clip of Jank. And again, Jank making that joke, being that Joe Rogan is only this obsessed with members of the trans community because he's had sex with them, and then Anna doubling down on the joke, etc. The truth of the matter is that Joe Rogan is not like a unique character in the way people, broadly speaking, speak about and treat people in the trans community, even people who aren't like full-on right-wing bigots who just want to legislate against trans kids and stuff like that. In terms of normies and how they view things, even libertarians, you'll probably find at best the most enlightened take is going to be like, well, you know, I have no problem with what anyone wants to do as an adult, so if you want to do something to your body, that's fine. It's not my business. That's your business. But I do think things like puberty blockers are child abuse, and those children should be taken, you know, stuff like that. Like, it's so ingrained in society, it's so normalized in society that what Joe Rogan says and does is not like, and I'm very sorry to say if it's the first time you're hearing this, is not like completely beyond the pale for a regular person to be thinking or saying. It's not that he's so obsessed with trans people that he happens to be, you know, a chaser or something like that. It's that Joe Rogan is basically reflecting what a broad amount of the population already thinks and or is being indoctrinated into believing. That's why pushing back against this whole grooming thing is so important, because consistently what they're doing, and the same tactics as I just pointed out were done in Nazi Germany, this isn't even Godwin's law, what they're doing is they're trying to reinforce this over and over and over, and it's something that a lot of people can get on board with, because on its surface it sounds like you are trying to protect children. And that's why a lot of people who might not be transphobes or might not be homophobes will hear that kind of stuff and be like, well, yeah, I mean, I've got nothing against the gays, but ultimately I don't want my kids being indoctrinated, and I don't want my kids being talked to by their teachers about sex. I don't want to hear about how he had sex with his husband last night, how great his anal sex was, or anything like that. They shouldn't tell kids this. And no one is saying that they should. No one is on the other side of this saying that, you know, kindergartners or third graders should be given sexual instructions on the sex lives of their teachers. No, that is wrong. No one is trying to talk about that. We're saying that there's a difference between talking about sex and gender, sexuality and sex, and gender and sexuality. These are different things. And I know it's, I guess, a little bit more complex than people currently are at in terms of their understanding of these topics, but simply stating that you have two mummies or you have two daddies is not talking to your kids about sex, about how they have sex or how they have sex with each other. It's talking about normal human relationships. And it's something that Disney cartoons have been putting on display for a very long time. It's just always been heterosexual relationships. And now that people are saying, well, can we have a gay kiss between cartoon characters? Everyone's like, no, that's grooming. Why do we have to involve sex in this? Why do kids need to see any of that? Come on, leave it alone. And that's why it's so gross what Joe Rogan is doing, because he is a megaphone. He has the largest podcast in the world, 11 million people. He is unaccountable in his discussion. And if he's going to join, the groups of people who are now trying to associate these two things together, it's dangerous. It's dangerous and it's wrong. And fuck him.
Do you enjoy the Serfs but prefer not to have to use your eyeballs? Many are saying this. Well, we've got the solution for you. It's the Serf Times in podcast form. Available on most major podcasting networks now. If you enjoy it, please consider leaving a good review and feedback because it really helps the show out, apparently, and it's free, just like the podcast.
To our gods, Xander Corvus and Peyton L. Just, we are prepared to embark on a mighty jihad in your name. To our monarch, Tom Spiker, we are but your humble jester, attempting in vain to get you to laugh. To our valiant knights of the Round Table, Benji Arnie, Tech Tink, Scary Earth Human, Tony, DM Rivera, Resident Scarecrow, Sir Nickus, Mayred, Cheryl Alvarez, Ruby Kelly, Brandon, Words Greenwood. It doesn't matter what I believe, it only matters what I can prove. Egbert Celine, Matthew Scarborough, Stellar Vision, Ariane McCarthy, Daniel Sutton, Coulter Smith, Jenna Tao, Quiet 185, Anna Loves Riley, Omni, Riley and Anna, Poodlehawk, The Tim Caucus, Multimondi, Trevbot, EXE, Brian Ephraim, Lemmy 101, Anthropophojack, Saren 42, Catherine, Ramon Acosta, Incosin, Agent NDN, Violent Orchard, Political Puppy, La Media Panza, Zach Christensen, Todd Buckingham, and Todd Lajeunesse. We raise our mugs and salute our brave heroes off to another glorious conquest.